Hello, Poe fans, and welcome back once more to Poe Discussions. And this time we're welcoming back, a featured presenter that we had many years now. I don't know, how's a couple years ago, maybe?
Yeah.
So we're welcoming back Stephen Smith, our own one man Poe. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Welcome,
Hi
Stephen.
guys.
So tell our people all about you that may not know you.
Oh well, thanks for having me back. Yeah, I think it was about two, maybe nearly 3 years ago we chatted. But so I'm a actor from the UK, but over the last few years I've been uh performing Edgar Allan Poe's stories live on stage. I've now memorized over 18,000 words of his original stories, and I perform what he wrote down, but as live pieces of theatre. And I've added two more this summer, and we're talking now in 2026. But I have been doing this show ever since the pandemic, really. The first live performance in front of an audience was in 2021, but I've been performing Poe ever since early 2020.
Okay.
Nice.
And I'm now heading to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival with my show One Man Poe, which is the name of the show. A one-man show featuring six now Edgar Allan Poe stories.
That is so
Wonderful.
awesome. So tell our listeners and viewers, like, what are the original stories that you chose to do, and then like what you've added on new, because we're excited to get to see those
Mhm.
eventually.
Yeah, yeah. So the first ever one that I did back in the pandemic was The Telltale Heart, and I did
Mhm.
that as a Facebook Live show. And a few months later, because it went so well and it really tapped into what I'm really interested in as an artist, which I suppose is Gothic horror, classical literature. I love all that. I have loved all that ever since I was a little kid. So
Mm-hmm.
the Telltale Heart was the first one, and then a few months later, I did the Black Cat, and then as an online show, and then a few months after that, I did the Pit and the Pendulum and the Raven, and all four of those stories I've been doing as One Man Poe live on stage. In October 2021 was the first time doing that particular quadruple bill. And it's changed ever so slightly over the years. Um, but only this summer, I've now added The Businessman and The Facts in the Case of M. Valdemar, but
Oh,
I've kind of shortened the title just because the main reason why I've shortened the title to The Case of M. Valdemar is because of the Edinburgh Fringe brochure, really. You get a finite amount of words to describe your show, including the title.
oh
And
wow.
it's a challenge with the Telltale Heart and the Pit and the Pendulum anyway. So the facts in the case of M. Valdemar, I've kind
Yeah,
of just squished it together just so it's the case of M. Valdemar.
that makes sense. That makes sense.
You got to do what you got to do. I mean, it works. And anyone who's a Poe person would know that the full title would be The Facts in the Case of
Hmm.
In Baltimore. So it
Yeah,
kind of
Absolutely.
works. So
for
that
sure.
works. Okay, let me see how many
Yeah.
times I say works. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm particularly excited about the businessman, especially because not many Poe fans even have heard of the businessman,
That's
and
true.
it's not thought as one of his good stories, really. I
Mhm.
mean,
Mhm.
it's not very popular, let's put it that way. And it's very weird and absurdist, and it's one of his comedies, so it's very
Mhm.
far removed from what you would expect from Edgar Allan Poe, which
Yeah.
again makes it exciting and a little scary tackling something
Hmm.
like that.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about like just the premise of that story, like you said, because I don't think a lot of people have either, like you said, heard of it or even read it.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I'll tell you a little bit of how I discovered it as well.
Okay.
So it must have been the first time I was at the Poe Museum in Richmond, Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
because I was doing the full audio guide tour, and I was in the old stone house, which is the first room you go to, which is symbolizing Edgar Allan Poe's early life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's changed. They've revamped it now, so it's changed aesthetically anyway. I'm sure everything is still there and just in a different place. But there was a particular part of that Poe's early life exhibition where it spoke about John Allan, who was his foster father.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, Poe, well, I say obviously, people may not know, but Poe had a very troublesome relationship with John Allan. And Allan, of course, is where we get the Allan from in Edgar Allan Poe. Um, and John Allan was one of the wealthiest men in Virginia at the time, and he was a Scottish-born merchant.
Mm-hmm.
And it mentioned something in this exhibition, just a little, a little card just saying, uh, mentioning the businessman, something along the lines of, and because of John Allan's troublesome relationship, this may be why Poe wrote The Businessman to satirize capitalism. And there was something just about that moment when I read that, and it was very strange. It was almost like there was something whispered in my intuition, about, I don't know what the voice was or what it said, but there was something that it just stayed all the way through the exhibition right till the end, where I came to Chris Sempner, the curator of the Poe Museum, and I said, "Oh, I read something about the businessman early on. What is the businessman?" And Chris kind of smiled and said, "Oh, it was one of his comedies." And that alone just interested me. Poe, funny. You don't really think of Poe as a funny guy, but there was just something about the title as well. It just sounded quite interesting, The Businessman. And me being, a somewhat entrepreneurial actor myself,
Yeah.
discovering the business side of show business anyway,
Mm-hmm.
I just thought, interesting. And so I went home and read it, and it's a very strange, quirky story. Um, Essentially, it's about a man called Peter Prophet who, when he's telling the reader, um, about his life. He's giving his biography or autobiography to
Mm-hmm.
the reader, but with the main aim to kind of garner their respect and attention and admiration. But the big joke is that all of his ways of making money and making profit get more and more questionable and dubious, and it actually ends in a very macabre way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I, however, when I was reading it, it was very hard to understand, um, and so years down the line, when I've come to actually adapt it for the stage, I
Mm-hmm.
have, unlike what I do with my original One Man Poe show with
Mm-hmm.
the Fab Four, I just keep them verbatim, and I have this rule with those ones where I can't change or make up any Edgar Allan Poe, but I can cut words if need
Yeah.
be. But
Mm-hmm.
kind of like one would do with Shakespeare. That's usually the rule with Shakespeare, and I apply that to Edgar Allan Poe.
Mm-hmm.
However, for the businessman especially, and the case of Valdemar a little bit, but for the businessman, I have maybe 10% of it I have adapted and made
Yeah.
it more accessible for a modern day audience, but it's still wholly the story and what Edgar Allan Poe intended, for sure. But I've just kind of added a sentence here and there just to kind of summarize what he just said, or to make it understandable. And then even so, I've added artwork, original artwork to the telling of the story,
Hmm.
again to kind of make it a little bit more uh, well, I mean, at the end of the day, the Peter Prophet, the character in the story, the narrator, he's telling the reader why you should trust him. But in the context of a stage show, I've actually um, changed it to a political campaign speech because
Oh,
at the
nice.
end of the businessman, the big punchline is he is asking for uh, um, approval for political a county seat is the big punchline at the end where so now as you can see I'm a self-made man and so I want a county seat please kind of thing is
Hmm.
how he ends it originally, but how I end it is asking for confidence at the coming election. So that's the kind of little slight change at the end that I've made, but
Hmm.
still in spirit to the original. And of course, it puts it into very modern day context of political campaign speeches and the
Hmm.
kind of there's the glaring obvious comparison people make to Trump. And
Hmm.
even though I don't wear an orange wig or anything like that, I try and not make it a Trump thing. It's just hard to ignore the comparison from an
Hmm.
audience's perspective, but I certainly don't. It's not too on the nose. And in fact, I've kind of based the character more off. There's a great film called There Will Be Blood with Daniel Day-Lewis about the oil prospector,
Hmm.
kind of dodgy snake oil salesman kind of guy, but very charismatic, very charismatic. So I've kind of really gone into that character rather than any kind of modern day politician.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but it's very funny. I mean, the great thing is that I've done a few preview performances now, because the way it works in Edinburgh, which I'm going to tomorrow. Literally tomorrow, we head up to Edinburgh for my biggest One Man Poe season yet, and we can talk about that in a sec.
Yeah.
But it's debuting at the Edinburgh Fringe, but I have done. You're allowed to do a certain amount of preview performances beforehand
Hmm.
to I think it's a maximum of 6 or 7 previews elsewhere. So I've done 4 preview shows. I did one in York a couple of weeks ago, and then 2 in Watford, where I'm from, and
Hmm.
then one in London last week. And it's just been so affirming hearing everyone really laugh out loud at it, and I'm so happy with the I guess another thing I'm really happy about is the variety of stories now, because you have now one that's really funny and that I do in an American accent, and it's a very different character to the rest, and I think the variety of the body of work that I've now got on stage is something I'm really, really happy about more than anything else. But yeah, it's really funny. That's the big kind of take home thing with this, and I think people will leave who do know Edgar Allan Poe and love Edgar Allan Poe, and they will leave going, "Oh, I never knew he was a funny guy,
Yeah.
but he is." And and he did write a lot of comedy. It's just a lot of that comedy way back then doesn't translate nowadays. But I've managed to translate it with a bit of adaptation and like I say, kind of visual aids as well and physical comedy um, in a stage show, which it's hard to laugh out loud nowadays at a 1840s text sometimes.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Um, yeah, so I'm particularly excited about that. And it's funny even just talking about it with you guys because I'm still in the early days of doing my elevator pitch, as it were, for it.
Hmm.
I can really nail the kind of summaries of the other 4 because I've been doing them for so well, but
Hmm.
kind of talking about them and well, not selling them, but just even summarizing them. I'm still trying to figure out how to do that concisely. So,
Yeah.
um, apologies if I went on a few tangents there, but
Oh
I
no.
guess it's all relevant.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
And it works.
yeah, it does. And I'm so glad that you did pick something that is just the comedy side, his satire, because
Mhm.
people need to see that more. And then hopefully they'll, once they see your show, they'll go and actually read the story too. That would be
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, I've actually because I've been really tempted to somehow print either a book or something to
Mhm.
sell at the end as a bit of merchandise for all of the stories. But
Mhm.
I'm experimenting this year with that because, for one thing, I've actually upscaled in Edinburgh Fringe this year, and I've employed two stagehands. Because another thing about the new show, which is um, somewhat preventing me from realizing like how am I going to do it over across the pond, as it were. But something about the new show, it's a very set heavy show. You know,
Mhm.
there's all the drawings, there's the big US flag, which I've actually got the right amount of stars for. You know, so I've had that custom made, and there's tables, there's all these props, and there's a big trunk full of the props and stuff for the businessman. And then for the Valdemar story, there's a big lectern which I use very deliberately for the Valdemar. It's hard to talk about it without spoiling it, you know.
Yeah, and don't no spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers. So anyway, there's a big lectern for the Valdemar show, and there's there's all the tables and the easel and everything for the businessman, and it's a big production. So which is a big departure from the other four, because as you guys know, like I just the other four stories can really work just with a one man, one chair, not much pizzazz to it, even though I try to add as much pizzazz as possible. But
Hmm.
so that's where was I going with this? Oh yeah, so I'm at the end of the Edinburgh shows. My stagehands are going to help me with some merchandise, and I've actually printed. So on one side, it's all of the original artwork for the show, so all of the artwork to show all of the occupations of Peter Prophet, because he goes through 8 different jobs
Oh,
essentially
wow.
in order to win you over. But I've done a drawing for each of them. So on one side you get all of that, and then on the other side you get Poe's unabridged original um, story of the businessman. So I think, and I've done a similar thing for the Valdemar show as well. So for now, I do actually have the ability to dish out Poe's actual text at
Mhm.
the end of the show now, which I've never done before, and just because it's well, I suppose like I say, it's having the kind of person to sell it at
Yeah.
the end. So yeah, I am doing that though this year, and maybe in a few months' time, I'll look into getting a poster slash printout of, the original Pint the Pendulum, Raven, Telltale,
Mhm.
and Black Cat as well. That'd be really fun, and I can hand
Yeah.
out the original stories, which would be really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really cool to do that. And hopefully that will
Mhm.
be very successful.
I hope so. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think the way we're going to package them and everything, it's and we're also selling some other businessman themed merchandise, which again, it's hard to describe them without spoiling what happens in the show,
Okay.
because the great thing about the another vision of mine that we've realized with this new show is that the businessman starts off the double bill, and by the end of it, the stage is just full of props and drawings and flags, and it's very busy. And then with the help of these stagehands, I do a makeup and costume change all on stage like I usually do, but the
Mhm.
stagehands completely strip everything back so that the Valdemar story is just very minimalistic and bare bones, apart from this very ominous looking lectern. Um, that's another big thing with this new one, which is quite exciting. Just the production values of it, which
Mhm.
yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And it's a very ambitious fringe this year. I mean, I have done One Man Poe for this would be the third year in a row in Edinburgh Fringe. And for those who don't know, the Edinburgh Fringe Festival is the world's largest arts festival. And I think I must have been talking about going to it when we were last
I think
on one of these
so.
chats.
Hmm.
Yeah, because it was November 2023 last time we chatted. So
Yeah.
I took up the show in 2024 in a 20-seat venue. Um, and we sold out every show. We did 21 shows, but albeit in a 20-seat venue. And we won the award for Best Horror Solo Show of the Edinburgh Fringe,
Yay.
which was really
Nice.
cool. And then in 2025, um, we took up the show again, another 21 shows, but in a 60-seat venue, and we
Mhm.
still sold out every show.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and there was something which I still find it very hard to say with conviction because in the Edinburgh Fringe there's about 4,000 shows that happen throughout the month, but
Wow.
different shows. The whole city transforms uh, to honor this festival and the film festival and the arts festival, the book festival. It's all a big festival in Edinburgh in August. But
Hmm.
One Man Poe got there's an awarding body called the Derek Awards,
Hmm.
and the Derek Awards gave One Man Poe the award for best overall show of the Edinburgh Fringe.
Wow, that's awesome.
Nice.
Which, yeah, and like I say, I mean, it's great for marketing, but there's something in me that I just can't still quite believe that with the amount of shows there are.
Hmm.
But, but he said to me, the guy, he said, we had several judges and reviewers and everything, and it was your show that came in on top. Out of he said they reviewed and judged over 3,000 shows. So One Man Poe, some creepy Edgar Allan Poe show, just it was the best of the lot according to those guys. So
Yeah.
so getting that kind of affirmation, almost 12 months ago, um, is why I was just like, well, because the big temptation this year would be just to do what I did last year, but in a bigger venue.
Hmm.
But there was something really special about this 60-seat venue, which is right on the Royal Mile, which is where everyone flies for their show, right next to the castle.
Hmm.
And it's a real spooky looking room with two Gothic chandeliers in the middle of it, in the middle of the space, and the walls are all wooden paneling and everything. It just fits so well, and the location was perfect. So I didn't want to move from where we're currently
Yeah.
at. So we're still in the same 60-seat venue, um, but instead of 21 shows, I'm doing 42 shows. I'm doing two shows a day over 42 shows over 23 days. I've got a couple of days off, but adding two more stories. So
Yeah.
it's upscaling in probably the hardest way possible, the most challenging way, I should say. But I
Hmm.
feel like audiences will appreciate that. And the great thing is those people who have seen One Man Poe before
Hmm.
can come and experience some new stories,
Yeah.
and maybe revisit some others as well if they like. So yeah, it's just been going so well, and I'm really very pleased to be well telling you about it and to be back on here with a new and improved kind of One Man Poe show,
Mhm.
and it's just been snowballing ever since chatting with you guys. And I
Yeah.
must say, I loved chatting with you. I I've I have to say that interview that we did back in 2023 was is my favorite interview that I've ever done.
Oh.
Yeah, 100%. We covered everything that I wanted to cover, and it was just a really lovely chat. And at the risk of repeating anything from that interview, if anyone's watching now, I would wholly recommend get it going back and looking
Mhm.
at that interview that we did, because yeah, that really summed up me and summed up what I do and why I do it.
Hmm.
But we can chat about other things and same things, if you like. Yeah,
Yeah.
Hey,
sure.
Whatever
well, we're
comes to
just
mind.
happy to have you back and to
Yeah.
hear how well you're doing and to know that you have expanded on something that, for one, is very close to our hearts as teachers, because
Hmm.
you doing this show is one of the ways that's reaching a crowd that we would never have access to,
Hmm.
especially from our
Mhm.
classroom. And you
Hmm.
introducing the story of the businessman, which, as you know, probably very few, even Poe fans like us who
Mhm.
have his full complete works or anything, don't really pay much attention to those types of stories because they
Hmm.
don't come up in conversations. And the
Yeah.
one thing about the businessman, the way you were describing it, it's like it fits so perfectly, especially about his relationship with John, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's all about what was going on in that time period with the privateers, with the
Mm.
expansion, manifest destiny, and all that kind of stuff that was going on in our history. And the
Mhm.
profiteers was, because it was all about expanding and growing and making our country into what it is today.
Hmm.
So you adapting it to more of a now is even more of a thrill, because you're taking Poe's original intention and you're bringing him once more into the new world.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
love it that
Yeah.
much.
And
Mhm.
just to clarify, I don't set it in the modern day.
Right.
But I have
Mhm.
I have slightly tweaked, because it's a very weird story, actually, because it, it, I think to be funny and absurdist, because it is hilarious. The Peter Prophet, he essentially, he's a person who has suffered severe brain damage from being whacked really hard on the head as a baby by
Mhm.
an old Irish nurse that
Oh,
he
yes.
will not forget in his will, I assure you. And he keeps on mentioning this nurse, but essentially he's suffering from severe brain damage, and it's very odd because the currency that he uses throughout is all British currency, even
Hmm.
though it's set in
Um,
America. And I'm not too clued into the history side of things, but I don't think people were using pennies and sixpences and all of that, and shillings and everything in the US,
They,
were they?
yes, during that time, that was
Hmm.
only when he was writing this. And Carmen, if you can look up, do you know the publication date of the businessman, Stephen?
Well, he published it twice, actually. The one that I'm using, the finished version, is
Mm-hmm.
1845, but I
okay.
Mm-hmm.
think the original publication, uh which was only the first half of the story, was a
Mm-hmm.
few years before that. And then he published it again, but with a whole second half. So
Well,
yeah, 45.
yeah, so during, after we won the revolution and everything, and then we had the oncoming of the different presidents, and then we had the expansion of the Louisiana Purchase and everything, we were still using the similar coinage that was introduced from the British because
Mm,
that was our basis of where we
Mm.
are with the economy at that time. So it wasn't until kind of toward the Civil War time when paper money started getting developed. So
hmm
we were
Mhm.
using the double eagles, we were using the sixpence, we were using some similarities to that
Yeah,
time
I
because we
looked it
were
up.
still, yeah, we were
Right.
still doing a lot of like with the privateers that I was talking about. It was the people because I was noticing your background with the boats and stuff. That's what kind of got me. I was like, oh yeah,
Mm,
because we were still doing a lot of shipping, and that's how they would keep track of the taxes and do because
Mhm.
we were still using French, British, Spanish. We had all kinds of
Mhm.
currencies in those early
mm,
days
Yeah,
because we
gotcha.
hadn't developed our own individuals yet.
just for some just examples, there were silver coins, half dime, dime, quarter dollar, half dollar. Gold coins were a classic head or Liberty head gold coin, quarter eagle, which was $2.50, and then a
Mhm.
half eagle was five, and an eagle was 10. And then there were copper half cents and large cents. And then there was some private banknotes, which was the paper money at that time.
Mhm.
So it's interesting to
Mm,
think about. Yeah, I mean that's a
Mhm.
very
mm,
good valid point that you bring up, Stephen, about the how Poe
mm.
used the currency that was more British, but we were
Well, yeah, because the way because this was months ago now, but the way I was researching it, I deducted that Poe used a lot of European influence, that kind of
yes.
quasi, oh, there's a word for it. I don't know what am I trying to say? It's like that using lots of British influence and language in his
Hmm.
writing because he quite
Mhm.
liked the
Hmm.
culture over here.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, uh, uh, what I've done is I've actually set it a bit without it being, I haven't added too much like historical context, but just in my own
Mhm.
mind, for my own sake of mind, I've set
Yeah.
it in the early
Mhm.
1900s, like, in the first
Hmm.
first few years after the turn of the century. And I've
Mhm.
actually changed all of that British currency to cents, dollars, and
Mhm.
I've even tried to kind of make the exchange rate more accurate, but it's
Yeah.
not foolproof.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why I wanted to do that was more, um, why did I want to do that? I don't know. I just had this kind of turn of the century, 1900s kind of. I kind of like that idea.
Mhm.
Um, that time of history. So yeah, I just kind of went for that, and didn't really. It didn't affect anything in terms of the actual story and the point of it, or the laughs, or anything like that. So I just thought I'd bump it up a little bit to,
Hmm.
yeah, turn of the 20th, yeah, 20th
Yeah, 20th
century.
century. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but it's an interesting story. I mean, and the yeah, it's very well, absurdist, but I suppose
Tongue in cheek.
tongue in cheek. Yeah, because the I was over um in October. I was over with Alex Zevestovich
Hmm.
in Baltimore, and we did this evening in Baltimore back in October 2025. And this was after I had kind of, put deposits down and everything for Edinburgh Fringe. And we did an
Hmm.
evening where we invited a little audience to hear us read The Case of M. Valdemar, and me read The Businessman. Alex also read this one, something called Diddling, or
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
what was that? Is it called
The
Diddling?
official, it's kind of got a long title.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Like I'll tell you, give me just a second, because
another
Yeah,
yeah,
funny
Diddler.
one, isn't
it's
it?
very funny. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So Yeah. You look that up because I completely forgot the title.
Diddling considered as one of the exact sciences. I always forget that
Right.
full title too. I always
Mhm.
remember it as diddling.
Yeah.
The
Well, so
dirt.
he read that one, verbatim, and I read The
Mhm.
Businessman verbatim, and it was very clear to me. The Businessman got a few laughs, but it was very clear to me that I had to adapt it. Um, I
Mhm.
wanted to do it, but it had to change. I couldn't be my Poe purist with it,
Mhm.
and there was certainly some bits, and even months later, after I thought I had, changed the right amount without being too much, I read it to my wife, and she didn't get some of the bits, and she's even with little pictures and sketches that I had done, because
Mhm.
my thing with Peter Prophet is, if Peter Prophet was doing his talk in the modern day, he'd be doing a TED Talk kind of PowerPoint presentation
Yeah.
and showing maybe clips or videos of him as these different occupations, which
Mhm.
just get worse and worse. But back then, you know, he couldn't have done that. So my vision was that he would show these kind of drawings of
Mhm.
or cartoons or something, and I had done some visual aid to help uh, Stephanie understand what was going on about. But even then, after I thought I had adapted it um, enough, she didn't really know what I was going on about for some bits. So it became very clear I had to actually make up some lines, and also the political campaign speech context. I've also added a few lines just to kind of drive that point through, because it comes very much in Poe's original. The big punchline at the end, asking for a county seat, comes very much as a shock. It's meant to be a bit of a shock ending, I suppose. Kind of like Valdemar, actually. Both of these ones have kind of shock endings. I
Yeah.
mean, Valdemar just ends in a puddle of goo, obviously.
Mhm.
Spoilers. But um, but with the businessman, the big budum. Oh, you're running for a political gain.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, that just came out of nowhere, to the extent that for an audience it would be kind of confusing all the way through, like, why is this person talking to me,
Mhm.
which is a big thing that audiences kind of need to know, like, why are you speaking right now. And so
Yeah.
having that introduced earlier is something I had to do with the businessman.
Mhm.
um yeah, I even had after doing the little reading with Alex, I even had a few people kind of take me aside saying, I don't think you should do it. I think it's not very, it's not it's not, I don't know. They said to me, I
Mhm.
don't know about this one, and I was like, oh God, I've already paid the deposit and get everything for Edinburgh, so it's happening. I'm doing it. And quite honestly, all the way up until my first preview in York, which was only first week of July, um, for want of a better phrase, uh, because it's kind of crude what I'm going to say, but I honestly thought with the businessman that it might, am I just polishing a turd here?
Mhm.
Like, is it beyond repair? But actually, people really loved it,
That's awesome.
and really thought, wow, that was really interesting and fun, and it's a testament to not only Poe's writing, but also me as an actor, and me as a kind of physical actor,
Mhm.
and a comedian. I haven't had chance to really show my funny side yet with
Yeah.
One Man Poe so far. So it's nice I get to do that with the businessman.
Yeah.
Um, but in terms of Valdemar as well, I've also edited that somewhat. So for those who don't know the case of M. Valdemar, um, so Poe wrote that and published it anonymously, I believe, in a scientific
Mhm.
paper
Mhm.
about mesmerism, and it was and a lot of people believed it as a true document or a true testimonial of something that actually happened,
Mhm.
um, and and it was one of his hoaxes, and he did a few in
Wow.
his time. And yeah, essentially, it's about a mesmerist who mesmerizes someone as they are dying and kind of keeps them in a
Mhm.
bit of a zombie-like state.
Mhm.
And in fact, they think that the this story in particular may have influenced the likes of George A. Romero and his
Mhm.
zombie movies, because
Mhm.
George A. Romero was from the Bronx and probably visited the cottage there and was
Yeah.
a big Poe fan. But
Mhm.
anyway, so I've really scrapped. There's lots of because in Poe's original, whenever he mentions a name, it's blanked out. You know, Doctor F
Mhm.
Yes.
and Mr. L, or there's all of these kind of um yeah what do you call it? Well, they're what am I trying to say?
Redacted, kind of.
Redacted. Yes, that's it. They're redacted from the testimonial because of fear
Yeah.
of because it's a true story and all of that.
Mhm.
Um, So I've completely scrapped every other character apart from the one physician. I've kept one doctor, who I just call his physician or doctor. Um, and all of the nurse, the Theodore dude, and Doctor F and Doctor whoever, they're
Mhm.
all gone. And
Okay.
and I've just made it all about Valdemar and the mesmerist, and then this physician just kind of pops in and out every now and
Mhm.
then. So it really simplifies the whole thing. And then of course the big challenge with Valdemar, which I had to kind of get over, which I don't do in any of the other stories, is multi-rolling. Because we chatted about this last time actually. The
Mhm.
the reason why I've picked, or at least the first four stories,
Mhm.
apart from them being popular and really awesome, was the
Mhm.
fact that the narrator stays the narrator all the way
Mhm.
through,
Yeah.
and there's rarely any other interaction, or sorry, rather than interaction, there's rarely other speech with any other characters, and
Mhm.
I feel like from a kind of horror on stage perspective, when I, as the actor, are able to suck you in as the audience and not kind of jump around from character to character and do different accents and everything,
Mhm.
I feel like that really draws the audience in such a way where they can really get sucked into the story. Um, but with Valdemar, I have to play Valdemar because he's got several lines.
Mhm.
Um, Maybe not too much. He's got maybe eight or nine lines.
Mhm.
And maybe three of them are done when he's actually dead and just talking and or undead, I should say. And his lines in the latter half of the story, when he is undead, uh, they're said through the tongue alone. That's how
Mhm.
it's described. So he's not moving his mouth. His mouth is completely wide open,
Yeah.
and the tongue is speaking. So how do you do that on stage? Well, I
Yeah.
will not. I will not spoil it because
Okay.
I'm really very happy with how I've been able to achieve that whole like undead stuff in this
Oh,
new
that's
show.
neat. Yeah.
Um, but in the early half of the story, I have to kind of, the lights change a bit, and I have to put on this almost Bela Lugosi voice for
Love it.
Valdemar, and
Oh yeah.
and I've gotten over my um not fear of multi-rolling, but I
Mhm.
suppose my skepticism of multi-rolling in One Man Poe. So
Mhm.
who knows? Maybe in upcoming years I might be able to tackle some other Poe stories where I will play other characters. That everyone's always going on about, oh, you should do Casca for Amontillado and
Yeah.
Oh
Fall of
yes.
the House of Usher. Oh, please, please, please. And I've always been no, no, there's too many characters, you
Yeah.
know. But who knows? Maybe in some upcoming years, I might tackle some of those other popular stories
Hmm.
with the multi-rolling aspect to it as well.
Yeah.
Maybe. You
Yeah, I
never
mean
know.
it can be a wonderful outcome, but like you're saying, when you have multi roles, you have to take yourself out of one character, put it into another character, and then be able to seamlessly go back and forth
Yeah.
to make it work.
Yeah.
And that is extremely difficult. It's not like you're a ventriloquist. Like it'd be cool if you had a puppet on stage and you can make that person be, and
Mhm.
you could be your own. But no, that's not how this works. So yeah.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
funny you say that about the puppet because well, I should give a little shout out to another Edgar Allan Poe show that is heading up to Edinburgh Fringe because
Hmm.
as far as I'm aware, there's One Man Poe, and then the only other Edgar Allan Poe show in the whole of the Fringe is a show called A Ghost Among the Living, and
Hmm.
they are it's a company called Boxtail Soup, and they do classical adaptations of shows, but with puppets. And they did what did they do last year? I think it was Casting the Runes or Gulliver's Travels or something, but I can't remember.
Okay.
But they're doing this. They're squeezing in, 6 or 7 Edgar Allan Poe stories into this show with puppets, which is,
Hmm.
for obvious reasons, I can't wait to see it. And
Yeah.
I know from experience that no Edgar Allan Poe show is ever the same as any other. So I've got
Yeah.
no issue in supporting them, and I'm sure
Hmm.
that and vice
Mhm.
versa. I'm sure. So
Yeah.
their audience is my audience as far as I'm concerned, but not in a
Hmm.
Mhm.
competitive way, in a
Right. Yeah.
supportive way. And I'm just looking forward to lifting them up as I'm sure
Hmm.
they're coming to see my show as far as I'm aware as well. So
Nice.
Awesome.
yeah, but puppets I think would work so well with Edgar Allan Poe.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And in fact the way I've been toying with potentially doing Cask of Amontillado is with a puppet for Fortunato.
Hmm.
Um, Yeah, a little puppet with that jingly hat. So
Oh, yes.
Uh-huh.
I think that'd be fun. I think, and again, it would make it
It
very
would.
differently told to how I do the others.
Hmm.
So yeah, there's potential for some of the others. I
Yeah.
mean, the Red Death would
Yeah.
be tricky though because
Yeah.
All the party goers and yeah.
Yeah.
well, it's more because when I read The Mask of the Red Death,
Hmm.
I think my interpretation is that the narrator is the Red Death.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's the kind of
Yeah.
twist at the end, and you're meant to go like, wait, no one's left. Who's left? Oh, everyone's dead, so therefore
Yes.
the person speaking to you
Hmm.
and is the
Hmm.
Red Death. But I don't know. That's just my personal interpretation. But then, aesthetically, do I just turn up as the Red Death and I'm in a red cloak and all of that, and I do the whole thing in a red cloak,
Hmm.
and it's a bit of a it's a bit obvious, I think. But anyway,
Hmm.
just thinking out loud at the moment. But
Oh, yeah. Well, and
but
I
yeah, for
was,
now, six will
Yeah.
do. Six will
yes.
do for now.
Well,
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's somewhere down the road.
yes.
That's for
maybe,
further.
maybe.
That's further down the road. But
I was going
yeah,
to
I mean,
also
yeah.
add
Go
that
ahead.
at the Center of Puppetry Arts in Atlanta, Georgia, they
Hmm.
did an Edgar Allan Poe show with all puppets, and I mean, the the people that were managing the puppets, some were hidden, some weren't, and it was wonderfully done, and they did it themselves, and the puppets
Cool.
were really neat. So puppets are definitely something
Hmm.
that could work.
Hmm. Yeah, I think so too. And I love puppetry. I think I'm good at it, and I just have always liked that style of telling stories,
Hmm.
especially creepy stories. There's something creepy
Yeah.
about puppets, isn't there?
Yes, there
Yeah.
are. Especially if you've
Well,
Um
let
watched some Twilight Zone episodes and what
Oh,
was that?
sure, yeah.
There's a movie back from the 70s with Anthony Hopkins. I can't remember the
Uh,
name of it, but it's about a puppet.
I thought you were going to say the one with the ventriloquist.
Maybe it's the ventriloquist. I can't remember. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, it's
I
okay.
think I think
Well,
if it's with Anthony Hopkins, it might be a remake of the original that
It
I'm
may
thinking
be,
of.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
well, what popped into my head was something that wasn't along those lines. It was way back before then with The Sound of Music. Because that is one of
Hmm.
my favorite parts in The Sound of Music is when
Hmm.
they're doing the little puppet show
Yeah.
with, the yodeling and,
Hmm.
the sheep and the goats and not sheep, but goats and everything. And Julie Andrews, and it's like, that is just so cool because it brought back a lot of memories from early times in school
Hmm.
when we would have those kinds of shows and people would have them on strings, the original, not the Jim Henson characters, but like the Sesame Street, but the ones that were on the strings that were dancing around with people holding them and those kinds of things. So I
Yeah, they're
always
called
loved that.
marionettes.
Yes, the
Hmm.
marionettes. Thank you.
Yeah.
So those are the puppeteers that I like to think of.
Hmm.
Not that I'm not a big
Yeah.
fan of Jim Henson and the Muppets, because come on, I grew up on Sesame Street. You can't go
Yeah.
wrong.
Oh yeah.
No.
And the
Count
Christmas Carol
Dracula.
is probably the best ever Christmas
Oh,
Carol
yes.
adaptation, I would say.
Oh, yeah, it's
Oh,
so
yeah.
good.
Although I am looking forward to seeing Johnny Depp do his Ebenezer
Yes,
Scrooge movie.
I
Yeah.
am
That's for
too.
We,
sure.
Oh,
and we can
yeah.
hope
Yeah.
he does it. He does it as well as he's done
Yeah.
most things. Now, there's some hiccups along the way with some of the things he's done that, kind of retracted from or
Hmm.
detracted from the original, but hopefully he will
Mm.
step up
Mm.
and say, "Woohoo, I did it."
Oh, yeah.
But
And I
so
looked up
Yeah.
that movie for with Anthony Hopkins. Magic was the
Oh,
name.
okay.
Roger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
It's creepy. I haven't seen it in
Hmm.
a long time, but yeah, it's creepy. But anyway.
So
Well,
after,
speaking.
oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
go for it. No, you go, Jeannie.
No, I was just going to ask you after Edinburgh, what was going to be your next part in the One Man
Yeah.
Poe?
Yeah, I'm Halloween season is looking quite busy. I'm not
Mhm.
coming over to PoFest this year. I'm taking a year
Oh.
off. I know, yeah, I was gutted, but essentially the Edinburgh Fringe this year, because I'm doing d- double what I did
Mhm.
in 2025,
Yeah.
and I'm really upscaling. It's double the budget.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
just currently I've just got everything kind of riding on the Edinburgh Fringe going well.
Hmm.
And I'm sure it will do. It's just one of those things, touching all the wood right now. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, back in 2020, start of 2020, people thought the Edinburgh Fringe was happening, and then, COVID happened.
Yeah.
Anything can happen. It won't happen. It
No,
will all
Yeah.
happen perfectly well. But
exactly.
there was
Hmm.
just something where I just felt like taking a bit of a year off, and I'll be
Yeah.
back, and I really want to do the businessman over there. And for one thing, I just think the perfect venue for the businessman is a kind of like Chautauqua tent kind of scenario. And
Hmm.
obviously
Yes.
in PoFest, I'm shoved in one of those kind of tents all the
Yes.
time. So literally, I can't say that those the tents at Poe Festival are the perfect venue for the other Poe stories that I do.
Hmm.
Hmm.
But for the businessman, I couldn't imagine anything better
Yeah.
than one of those tents. So I really want to do the businessman over there. But anyway, so
Yeah.
taking a bit of a break from Poe Fest and Poe Museum and all of that.
Hmm.
Um, and so I'm actually doing a few tour stops, just off the top of my head. So in September, I'm doing the Guildford Fringe Festival. Um, and then I'm doing, yeah, so in Liverpool, I'm doing all three of the shows, all six stories in one night, actually. That's the
Oh,
first
wow.
time, first and hopefully not last time I get to do that, but we're kind of spreading it out a little bit. So you can see all of the stories, but over, I think it's maybe 4 hours or five. It's a
Mm.
but you don't need to see all of them. It's one of those
Mhm.
multi-story deals. You can see as many as you like. And then
Mhm.
I'm doing Colchester, London, Bristol is my Halloween weekend, and Lichfield, which is Midlands, and then I'm doing One Man Poe in the West End, which is really
Oh.
exciting. It's doing its just a one night only in a West End theatre on
Mhm.
Halloween weekend, but that's nearly sold out, which is really
Oh,
excited
nice.
exciting. Yeah, so much in advance as well, which is yeah, really affirming. And that will be yeah, all four stories. It's challenging in terms of marketing these post shows now, because some nights it's just two stories, some nights it's all four, some nights it's three, and so
Yeah.
you've got to really kind of, as a punter, you've got to kind of really check what stories you're going to now.
Yeah.
But they're all good.
They
So
are.
you have a fab time, whatever you see. Um, yeah, and then my winter is looking. I got the news the other day. I've got cast in a play
Nice.
with
Nice.
some other actors. I'm working with other actors now, which is fantastic. Um, yeah, so that's really great. Yeah, so I'm really more than anything, it's the back-to-back work and
Mhm.
projects is
Mhm.
is what any actor dreams about, really. So
Oh,
yeah, booked up till the new year, which is really great.
that's
Um,
wonderful.
and then one thing I forgot to mention before, but we've made a short film of the Black Cat now that we've
Ooh,
submitted to all
yes.
these festivals. And you
Nice.
know what? It's really, really good. I mean, it's how it came about was this was back in early 2025. Yeah,
Hmm.
early 2025. My friend, a guy called Damien Rain,
Hmm.
he he kind of gets leases on these abandoned buildings and turns them into art spaces where artists can kind of have residency there for free, essentially. And he's
Mhm.
a really
Hmm.
supportive for the art community around London in that respect.
Yeah.
Um, and he knew me, directed me in something a few years ago now, and he basically said, "Look, I've got this abandoned Argos, which is Argos is kind of like a Walmart or something,
Okay.
and
Mhm.
so we've got this big space. There's all these rooms, and you can do whatever you like in here. Just take one of the rooms and do what you want." And of course, originally I was thinking, all right, what kind of theatre show would work in here?
Mhm.
But there was something kind of a little bit too abandoned about it that made me think, maybe an audience wouldn't really want to be in this space.
Yeah.
Um, so I got some filmmaker friends of mine, and they, yeah, we kind of looked around this room, and it looked really like a prison cell. It just
Wow.
had that kind of vibe about it, and my mind leapt immediately to either Telltale Heart, which you could
Mhm.
set in an asylum, I suppose, or some kind of
Hmm.
cell, or The Black Cat, which does take place, entirely. I know in the story it goes from all over the place in terms of locations, but essentially the narrator is writing it all in his prison cell. So they were really keen on doing the Black Cat, but we really cut a lot of it from we again, the rule was we could cut a load of Poe, but we couldn't add
Mhm.
anything new. So we made it's a 17-minute film in the end, and it's all shot in black and white, and it's done in that another one of their references. because I was just the actor producer on it, but I completely gave them the reins in terms of storyboarding and editing and the music and all of that. And it was
Mhm.
so lovely just to trust them with that. And
Wow.
they've come up with such a fantastic film. Um, because of that, I wouldn't know where to start. So one of their references was a film called The Lighthouse,
Mhm.
which is Robert Pattinson and
Mm-hmm.
Willem Dafoe, and
Mm-hmm.
which is interestingly based on a Edgar Allan Poe story.
Yes.
You guys,
Mhm.
you're nodding, so you knew that.
Oh
I
yeah.
Yeah.
didn't know that. I'd seen The Lighthouse, but I didn't know that until after the fact and after we did the Black Cat and everything. Yeah, it turns
Yeah.
out, based on the what like few lines of whatever Poe wrote down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It
yeah.
was unfinished, and then
Mhm.
Robert Bloch, who wrote Psycho, finished
Mhm.
it.
Mm,
Yes.
interesting. Right. Okay. Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Lighthouse and Robert Eggers and everything, very very kind of
Hmm.
based on that, and it's yeah. Currently, we're getting it into film festivals, and it's a lovely film, and currently I'll drop you the link to the crowdfunding page, because currently anyone who donates anything to our crowdfunder, and
Hmm.
that's literally any amount, will get a link to watch the film.
Oh wow.
um
Okay.
we can't
Cool.
put it online, you know on YouTube, because that will make it ineligible for
It will
proper film
negate the,
festivals.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you can't have it readily available to the public. But if you
Okay.
donate, you can see it. So that's something
Awesome.
that I would wholly encourage all of your Poe listeners to do.
Yeah.
I've sent it around. If I haven't sent it to you guys, I will do.
Okay.
But I sent it to a few people. But yes, any listeners, please do donate and support the cause, because
Absolutely.
for every film festival, um, just to apply, you need to pay a fee. So it
Hmm.
does crank up the cost of it all. And we actually, I mean, it was such a producer came in right at the last minute, because these filmmaker friends that I was working with, they were gonna hire all of this, I think it was thousands of pounds worth of equipment for free from their film school that they were studying at.
Hmm.
Mhm.
But the day before the shoot, and it was a 2-day shoot in this room, the film school said, "Oh, sorry, the equipment's double booked."
Oh
Um,
Yeah.
no.
so we had everything planned, and then they said, "Oh, sorry, you don't have the equipment." So this, well, executive producer now, someone they knew, just said, "Don't worry, I'll hire the equipment,"
Hmm.
and from somewhere else. So they saved the day, and it wouldn't have happened without them. But
Wow.
essentially, it's a micro budget film, but a micro budget. It's definitely a micro budget film, because um, even though it was kind of, in the vicinity of, definitely more than 5 digits in terms of
Mhm.
the
Hmm.
budget. Like, I think a micro budget film is something like £50,000 nowadays.
Mhm.
Wow.
So definitely not that micro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, it hasn't come cheap. Let's put it that way. So
Yeah.
so
Right.
yeah, but it's a very good Poe. It's got the spirit of Poe all throughout, and it's got
Cool.
me.
Wonderful. Hey, wonderful.
That's even
So,
better.
yeah. And we would actually have loved to help crowdsource something like
Yeah,
that, because
Yeah.
those
absolutely.
types of films are definitely popular with
Hmm.
the wonderful world of net that we have that's
Yeah.
global. So
hmm
I
Absolutely.
think that would be
Hmm.
wonderful. So yeah, and it's
I'll send you a
Poe.
little send you a little blurb about it, and
Yeah,
because yeah, it'd be great to get that in your newsletter, which I know you
yeah.
you mentioned I'll feature at some point. So
Yes,
yeah,
Oh
that'd
most
be
yeah.
definitely. A
fantastic.
little
I'll
later
I'll
this
slip
month.
that in.
Exactly.
Perfect.
We would love
Perfect.
love to advertise for you. So
Yeah.
But so you're gonna take off from the Poe Fest this year. So sorry we'll
Yeah.
miss you,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
hopefully we'll see you next year. And
Mhm.
you're gonna stay busy through the new year. So hopefully you can take a few days rest at the new year of 2027 and
Yeah.
hop to and
Well,
get started on some more
September, there's some good chunks of just relaxing
break.
for
All
me.
right.
Well,
A
good.
bit of a break. Because it's going to be I mean, you've seen the Pit and the Pendulum and stuff that I do,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like
Mhm.
very physically draining. I lose so many calories whilst doing these shows, so
I can
I've just got to
imagine.
eat. I've just got to eat so much during the Fringe, just to kind of not look like a skeleton, basically.
Yeah.
So but it's also the vocal, um,
Oh
what I
yes.
do, what I do, what I have been doing in Edinburgh Fringe these last few years is steaming my voice, which is essentially
Mm-hmm.
when you breathe in the put the water, the moisture back in your vocal cords, and I've been doing
Mhm.
that every morning, every night, and that kind of gets me through. But I'm doing twice as many shows this year, so
Yeah.
it's a big marathon, but I'm sure it won't go unappreciated through
Mhm.
ticket sales. I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's crazy, but it's
Awesome too.
I love it. I love it though.
Yeah.
That's the thing. The thing
Well,
is, I
that's
love
good.
it so much, and I feel like that's what gets me through it, and that's what gets
Yeah.
the audience in and gets them telling other people because they can see the passion behind it all. And
That's
I've
what
always
that's
said
exactly.
that I think even Edgar Allan Poe would like the show because it's his
Oh
words,
yes.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say you kind of said the words I was gonna say. Your passion
Mhm.
is so portrayed in your performance that it
Mhm.
just, I mean, it just breathes Poe and what your love for what you do. And that's why it's so fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you so much for saying so.
Yeah.
Well, we better round things off then because
Yeah.
I've still got some
Yeah.
packing to do. This has been a wonderful
Nice.
way to procrastinate.
Well,
Oh
good.
yeah. Hey, well,
Good.
it's good, but you get a little downtime before you have to hit the road running tomorrow for the
Yes.
Edinburgh Fringe, right? Did I say it
Yes,
correctly?
Edinburgh
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 Fringe.
Fringe. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I had to make sure I had said it correctly. So anyone who's watching, if you're nearby, and go head out to the Edinburgh Fringe and check out Stephen and his one man poe.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we
Thanks,
thank you.
guys.
Yeah, we
We
thank you so much for being with us on this
mhm.
for us Sunday morning, for you Sunday
Yes.
afternoon.
Yes.
Oh,
And
my
we will
pleasure. Anytime.
talk again. We will
Yeah.
definitely talk again and keep in touch. And we hope to see you soon, if not in person, at least
Yeah.
online. So good
For
luck,
sure.
have fun,
Hmm.
and keep
Thank you.
spreading the Poe.
Yes.
Spreading the Poe love. Yeah, love
That's
that.
right,
Oh,
spreading the
cheers,
Poe
guys.
love.
Yes.
All right.
And
Thank you.
bye.
We are. Bye.
Yeah.
Poe out.
Poe out.